Do you ever think about the skincare products that really started your love for skincare? I'm not talking about the products that you used to use back in the day that you maybe hate now. I'm talking about the products that really started your love, that really got you interested in skincare. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, so I want to talk about some of those products with you. So I think about a lot of my skincare first, like the products that I truly loved a lot lately. I think partially because we're constantly formulating new products or trying to think about, ideas for new products for my own brand Naturium. So I'm always like in that state of mind where I think back on, products I was really fond of or products that really just made something click for me. Skincare can start pretty early in our lives. Like my earliest memory of truly getting on a skincare routine was when I was 12 years old. I started to kind of get clogged pores. I had really start to have hormonal changes. I, had blackheads all over the place. I didn't know what to do with my skin. And my mom was like, we need to do something about this. And so at the time, my mom was really into the Clinique 3-step system. So she took me to the Clinique counter and I fondly remember this. She got me on the 3-step system and it really helped my skin. For a lot of us, those 3-step systems were really important to teach us how to have a complete skincare routine. So I want to talk about skincare when I was 30 years old. So exactly a decade ago is when I can really, truly remember skincare clicking for me and suddenly realizing I had found some holy grail skincare products in my life. Before that, I'd say I had favorite skincare products, but I was not loyal at that time. In my entire 20s, I definitely can say there was not one product or one brand that I was 100% loyal to. Was not until I turned 30. I also had another big skincare milestone at 30, and it was the first time I got Botox also. So I really think 30 was that time in my life where I was like, you know what? I'm getting a little bit older, I want to take things a little bit more serious, and I'm starting to really put this all together. So I have some of the products that really clicked for me when I turned 30. Some of them I don't have though, and I want to still talk about them. One of them was the cleanser that made me realize I could really enjoy cleansing my skin. Because believe it or not, before then, I was using makeup wipes religiously. I feel ashamed when I say that. So that cleanser that just made my mind go poof when I was 30, it was the Liz Earle Cleanse and Polish Hot Cloth Cleanser. That's a long name, but if you haven't tried it, it was this kind of creamy cleanser that you would put on, and they touted it as a way to cleanse all of your makeup off. And so for me, this was coming off of being a religious makeup wipe user. This kind of made sense to me to use then a cloth, right? A muslin cloth is what it would come with, and I would load up on this cleanser because it was so beautiful, and it had a menthol eucalyptus kind of fragrance to it too, which now I'm like, oh gosh, I don't even really want that in my life anymore. But at the time, again, it was this beautiful spa experience. So you would put it onto your skin, you would warm up this muslin cloth, and then you would, basically remove all of your makeup with this, and it would just feel so magical and spa-like, and I felt like an adult. I felt fancy. There was just so much about it that made me love the entire experience. And I'd say that that was probably that first experience that really kind of kicked off, my love for cleansers, and probably led to me finding or even trying a double cleanse. There are things about it that I think I was a little bit too rough with. I definitely would try to make my cloth really, really hot, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend now. And that would make my melasma completely flare up and get crazy. But the whole experience of it was really nice. So maybe I'll put that in a skincare routine one of these days just so you guys can see that experience. But that did eventually lead me to trying the Dermalogica Precleanse oil. At the time, the double cleanse was not a huge deal. And I think one of the estheticians showed me how to use it in my skincare routine. And I was like, ooh, this is an interesting concept. But I didn't fully grasp the concept of a double cleanse at that very moment. So I would use it and it would remove all of my makeup, but then I'd be like, I feel like I'm so greasy afterwards because again, I wasn't really fully understanding the concept. But then I received this cleanser from Fresh. This is their soy face cleanser. If you haven't tried this is the first gel cleanser where I realized my cleanser could be very gentle. It was this novel concept, which is such a funny thing to think now because it's all that we suggest these days. We're use a gel cleanser that's super gentle. It doesn't have to be super lathery and it doesn't have to be drying for your skin. It can cleanse your skin, but not strip it. That was this cleanser. This was and still is a holy grail cleanser for a lot of people, and it was for me at the time especially. It has amino acids, it feels like this light gel, it gives you this light lather. It really was the cleanser that kicked all of that off for me and for a lot of people, where we were like, oh, you don't have to strip your skin. This was the cleanser. This was it. And I know that this became like a big business product for Fresh, and I think like really put Fresh on the map for a lot of people. So that kind of was like my cleanser journey. But remember, I still was not 100% on the double cleanse train at that moment. Like I was still kind of playing around, and really that Liz Earle, that cleanser was the cleanser for me. Like when people would start working for me, like Anna on my team even said when we were talking about this video, she was like, I think when I first started working, you gave me a couple bottles of this as like a introduction to skincare. Like, here, you need to have these. It was, I mean, talk to any beauty editor at the time, and this was the cleanser. Liz Earle. All right, so the next product I want to talk about is this one from SK2, their Pitera Facial Treatment Essence. I know that everybody at this point knows about this product, or you've probably heard about this product, tried this product. It might have been your first essence too, but this is truly my first essence that I ever used, and that finally clicked for me. But when I think back, it was actually a hilarious time in skincare because no one really knew what the hell an essence was in the United States, and no one really explained back then like what you were supposed to do with products that weren't so, I guess, like typical. Like if it wasn't a cleanser and it wasn't a toner and it wasn't a moisturizer, then what did you do with it? So I distinctly remember receiving a PR package from SK2, which at the time I had never heard of. And this PR package was kind of ridiculous because when you opened it up, it was really beautiful and elaborate, and there was a little video screen in it, and you would press it and see this video that they're presenting to you about this product, right? So this arrived, and I remember, you know, like opening it up, and I pressed play on the video, and Kate Bosworth was the ambassador for the brand. And this beautiful video played of her talking about how Pitera was this fermented ingredient that came from sake. Like they were kind of touting this as like the reason why you would want to use this Pitera ingredient was because they noticed that the brewers, I don't even know what they would be called, but the people that would work with like the rice and do like the whole brewing process for the sake, they noticed they had these magically young looking hands. Like their hands just looked amazing. Like the skin was bright. They didn't have any wrinkles. They just looked like they had very youthful hands, even though they'd been doing this for decades, basically. Like I remember this was kind of like the story behind Pitera and why you would use it. But they never explained what you do with an essence. And at the time we were like, well, what is an essence? And you know, like for a long while there, I thought this was like a toner. Like you would put it on a cotton pad, you would pat it on your skin, but then you'd be like, oh, I don't feel it stinging my skin. It's not tingling. It doesn't feel like it's exfoliating. So I kept like putting it to the side and not knowing what you would do with it. And one of the reasons why it was also so confusing was because back then, believe it or not, and this is not that long ago, I think this was like 2012, 2013, like the concept of making education videos on skincare products was starting to become a thing, but it wasn't a thing yet. So even this promotional video we got of Kate Bosworth talking about this product, she had a full face of makeup on. You never saw anybody show their true skin. Like it was just not a thing at all. Just in like 2013, like probably even up to like 2015, 2016, you would like not see celebrities show their real skin. So you never saw her put this on. And in fact, because you kept talking about hands, you kept seeing her be like, my hands are so beautiful. Like it really changed my hands. Changes your face, but it changes my hands. And it's like, well, so what is this? Like, is it a lotion? Like, what do you do with it? So it actually took me like a year, 2 years, something like that, to really fully understand the concept of an essence because of this product. You know, like it just seemed like such a fancy, beautiful product, and you felt like you had to use it, but you just didn't know what to do. And finally, this makeup artist told me that there was a trend in Korea and Japan that was like skin softeners is what they would refer to it as. And it was the concept of an essence where they would like pat it onto their skin. It would soften their skin is what they would say. And it would prep their skin for, you know, all of their other skincare products. And that was when it finally clicked. It took me all of that. I mean, it was that confusing back then to understand how a product worked because no one would explain it to you and no one would show it to you in a video. You just had no idea. So that was the journey of SK2 and their essence, the Pitera essence. But this was the product that got me started on essence, and I love essence. So another product that I don't have, but it really kicked off a love of specifically an ingredient. It was like a first product, like mostly a first brand that really did the single ingredient focus at the time. And this was like around, I want to say like 2013. And the brand was Hada Labo. I don't know if you guys have heard of this brand. They're a Japanese brand. At the time, they were trying to become a US brand, like a brand that made the transition from Japan into the US and into the mass market. And their big selling point was hyaluronic acid. Like that was what they were selling to us in the United States. This was an ingredient that could, absorb 10 times the amount of water or whatever, like the pitch was. So at the time, just to be clear, hyaluronic acid wasn't new, but it wasn't necessarily what it is today. Like what you see today, this was the era of it getting started. I want to say that they called it super hyaluronic acid, and every product that they would introduce was very hyaluronic acid focused. So if you can imagine, it was like just hyaluronic acid, and it was like pushed in your face, just completely different concept. So hyaluronic acid was really a big focus at that point in skincare. I think it was Hada Labo was really the brand that like kept pushing hyaluronic acid on me. So this was like the beginning of hyaluronic acid and its popularity. So even though it wasn't a brand new ingredient, this was really the height of it. I want to say it was like 2013 when we really just started to get that full pitch. We want hyaluronic acid to be the new it ingredient. And that was like the beginning of the it skincare ingredient happening too. So every time you hear me say like the ingredient of the year, hyaluronic acid was that first ingredient that really kickstarted that whole concept in my mind. And it was thanks to Hada Labo. And then the last product from that era, and then we're gonna go on to some other products that kind of like were later on. But the last product of that era, like my early 30s, that like just made a product and an ingredient click for me, it was this one from SkinCeuticals, which we all know and love. It is the C.E. Ferulic. I very fondly and distinctly remember learning about this product from dermatologists. I was working as a beauty editor again, and I remember it was like one of our first, like big video campaigns, which again was unheard of at the time. Like brands would pay for magazines to do features on them, like in the magazine, not in video. Like this was like such small budget. Like I remember it was like, I was such an afterthought, but this was like such a huge production. I had to go around the United States. We had to do this in Miami, Los Angeles, and New York City, where we went and talked to dermatologists that SkinCeuticals had chosen. We learned about these dermatologists and their own skincare routine, and then also interviewed their patients about skin cancer. And they really highlighted the fact that you needed to have vitamin C in your skincare routine because it boosted the efficacy of your sunscreen, which was really the big importance at that point. So it was all about this product and their sunscreen. And it was the first time it clicked for me that, like the sun caused all of this damage to your skin. You had to wear your sunscreen all the time, but not just your sunscreen. If you wanted to see a big change in your skin and you wanted to boost the efficacy of your sunscreen, you had to have your antioxidants from your vitamin C. So that was when I started using C.E. Ferulic. And this is also, sadly, when sunscreen started to click for me. At the time though, even with that sunscreen, I loved that sunscreen from SkinCeuticals, but there wasn't really a sunscreen at the time that was like, this is a beautiful sunscreen. Like I want this to be part of my skincare routine every single day. I was still really off and on with it, but I really was committed to this. And obviously you can't forget that hot dog water smell. Like it was one of those things where I even remember asking the brand, like, is that the way it's supposed to smell? And they're like, yes. That's the way it's supposed to smell, which we now know is just ferulic acid. It's a scent of ferulic acid, that barbecue kind of hot dog smell. But I still love it. I still think it's one of the best vitamin C serums out there. And it was back then. I did that whole campaign. I spent an entire year working with SkinCeuticals behind the scenes, and I was producing videos for them. I was not on camera at all. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit to like my mid-30s, because mid-30s was when it really all clicked for me. And there were a lot of life changes happening. So I had already started mixed makeup. I started mixed makeup in 2014. I was really more focused on my skin because I was now entering like my mid-30s. I was really starting to see those changes in my face. I was thinking about pregnancy and then eventually pregnant. And I think that these changes are some changes that kind of click for a lot of women especially, and you'll probably relate. But the one that like changed my life forever was being introduced to the Elemis Pro-Collagen Cleansing Balm. If you guys are my OGs, like you've been with me forever, since like the start, you know that the double cleanse really clicked for me. when I started using this product. And I'm not talking about the rose version, actually. This is the only one that I happen to have in my beauty closet right now, but this is not my favorite one. It is the original one, the one that has like a eucalyptus kind of scent to it. And you can kind of see, like the Liz Earle cleansing polish had that same concept, and so did this, you know, the original version of the Elemis Pro-Collagen cleansing balm. When I started to use this, it was like the best of all the worlds of my favorite cleansers. So it had that eucalyptus like spa experience with it. When you like would first put it on, it felt thick and luxurious like the Eve Lom cleansing balm, but it actually did emulsify and it did cleanse off, and I didn't feel like I had to use a washcloth to get this off of my skin. Suddenly I couldn't get enough of this stuff. I honestly feel like I owe double cleansing to this brand and to this product. It's funny to have the rose one, the one that I'm showing you guys right now, because the rose one was actually my least favorite of all the versions that they came out with, because, you know, now they have even one that's fragrance free that I still also really love. But this one, when they came out with the rose one, I actually was so excited because I was like, oh, I love rose. Rose is one of my favorite fragrances. Like, I just love it. I can't wait to open this. And I remember using it and being like, you know what, this isn't my favorite. I like the original better. I don't really, something about the rose one just doesn't click for me. So every time I'd get the rose one, I'd be like, like if they would send it to me in PR, I'd be like, oh, why didn't they send me the original? These are like first world problems, by the way, like first world influencer problems, when you're like, oh, that's not the one I wanted. But anyway, the Elemis Pro-Collagen Cleansing Balm, this is what got started for me. Another product that I used to use all the time was this one from Caudalie. I actually just used to love Caudalie products so much. I still do. Every time I get them, I'm like, oh, I love Caudalie so much. But the Beauty Elixir, I mean, this was like a toner that I just loved. And this was like a toner that I used to set my makeup. This was a toner I would use if I just wanted to like refresh my skin or anything. Like, this was the toner. It has this beautiful fragrance to it. It has a little bit of oil in it, so it's not super drying if you just use it on its own. This is just a beautiful toner. And I have a very distinct memory of this product because I remember discussing pregnancy. I think I was like either like right at the beginning of my first pregnancy or just like starting to think about pregnancy. And this was at the time when like EWG was just like starting to really go hard with their PR campaign of like toxic ingredients and all this like terrible stuff that we now know is just stupid information and lots of misinformation about skincare now. But they had an app, it's probably still around, called like Think Dirty. And I used to promote this app because I thought it was so genius that they did this. This app would like tell you how toxic a product was. I like thinking about it now, I'm like, God, that is so stupid. In fact, it makes me a little bit angry because I was exactly the person that like they would hook with this kind of concept of like nasty ingredients, toxic ingredients. I was a woman about to like have a baby. And when you're pregnant, that's when you become hypersensitive to all the ingredients in your life. And I distinctly remember I was with Nikki, my friend and makeup artist. She had just sprayed this on my face and I was like, there's this app that tells you which products are toxic. And she had just sprayed this on. So we're like, let's look this one up. And I remember it came back as like so toxic. Like extremely, it was like a code red, like this is going to like ruin you and give you cancer. And we both looked at it and we're like, we felt so torn about it. And I actually did stop using the product because of that stupid app. There were a lot of products that I stopped using for a while because I gave into the fear mongering because I was, you know, probably the most vulnerable in my life when it came to skincare products because I was making a baby, you know, like that's when you become very vulnerable. And it makes me so sad because I get so many messages from people, from women all the time when they're pregnant and they're just so worried because everything makes you so scared when you're pregnant. That's my memory with this product. But we have now since brought it back in. I hate the EWG and their Think Dirty app because it's just fear mongering and it's not true at all. And this product is just as beautiful as it was back then. And they now have new packaging apparently because it was more purple toned and now it's not. So Caudalie Beauty Elixir. So speaking of pregnancy, that was probably the biggest revolution in my skincare routine, mostly because pregnancy was when my skin completely changed. And it's because of hormones mostly, but also because I was so aware of everything. That's when I started looking at ingredient lists and looking at the EWG and the Think Dirty app, and you know, like the whole like clean beauty era was really getting started. And I remember I wanted to find a product that could help me with the dullness in my skin, the, you know, the signs of aging that I was suddenly starting to see, and just anything that I could have that was pregnancy safe. And this came out. It was the Biossance Squalane plus Phyto-Retinol Serum. This was a game changer for me, and I'll tell you why. At the time, I thought that, like a plant-based retinol, which has now become like a big thing when you hear about bioretinol and you hear about bakuchiol and all of that, right? They kind of kickstarted this for me. And then I started to realize after like using this over and over again, I just loved what it did to my skin. I loved the feeling of it. This is basically a niacinamide serum. They just don't call it that, but this is a niacinamide serum. It helps to brighten your skin and just regulate all of your oil production and, soothe your skin barrier. There's just so many different things that make niacinamide amazing. And then you couple that with, the plant-based retinol alternative and the squalane, and it just makes for a beautiful product. I still think this is a beautiful serum. It's not my go-to anymore, but at the time it was revolutionary for me. If you've been following me for a while, you would know that REN really kickstarted my love for lactic acid and also for glycinated azelaic acid, which is actually the main ingredient in our Naturium azelaic topical acid product. It's called PAD for short. It's kind of like the nickname for this ingredient, but it's basically azelaic acid derivative, and it helps to brighten your skin. It helps to control oil, and it helps to just like slightly exfoliate your skin. It just does so many different things. The first product that really clicked for me was the REN Ready Steady Glow. It had that mixed with other ingredients like lactic acid and also with like willow bark extract. It had a bunch of other really great ingredients in it, but that product really helped me to just like get that glow back to my skin because, I had so much dullness with my skin, especially like around pregnancy and stuff. That was like the first time I was trying to deal with like melasma and everything. It was one of the products I could use. Same with, the Biossance product. These were like the only products I could use. At least that's what I thought at the time. So I really became committed to those products, and it really changed my skin. You guys probably heard me talk about it for years and years and years after that because I just loved it so much. There are so many other products now, and it's not really that I don't love those products anymore. It's just that there are just so many other products nowadays that it's hard to like keep talking about those ones when there's so many new ones. So the REN Ready Steady Glow, you've probably purchased it because of me. And then there was another product that I don't have with me, but it also kickstarted my love for vitamin C derivatives. And that was the Sunday Riley C.E.O. vitamin C serum. If you haven't used that, I also loved it. It has THD ascorbate in it, which is a vitamin C derivative. It's a fat soluble vitamin C derivative. It's so much more gentle on your skin. The Sunday Riley C.E.O., that product really made my skin look brighter. I was really like looking for anything that could make my skin look less dull and look brighter and more even toned because of pregnancy and being like postpartum and everything. So those two products together, it was the REN Ready Steady Glow and the Sunday Riley C.E.O. Those just made my skin look so much better, and I'll always remember that. Just fond memories of those two products. Also around that era, this product from Verso. You've probably heard me talk about this too. This is the Superfacial Serum with Retinol 8. This was truly my first love when it came to a retinol, just like your daily retinol product. I think it's an amazing retinol, especially for people who are just getting started off on retinol. Up until this point, I had tried different retinol products, but back in the day, which wasn't that long ago, retinol was really always just too strong. Like it would always make your skin get irritated. I could never find that right balance. And I even mean like whether it was the prescriptions, like prescriptions were always, and to this day, just so harsh on my skin. I could never really get my skin to acclimate to them. So then I would try the retinols that you would get from different brands, and they were always just too strong for me. I couldn't use them more than once a week. And then I found this. And what really clicked for me was that they were, they're talking about retinol 8, which was like their own proprietary kind of retinol ingredient. And I think it ended up being like a retinol kind of ester ingredient. So it made it very gentle, but still effective. And this was the first retinol product that I could actually use every single night in my skincare routine. I actually saw a change in my skin. My skin looked so much better. So Verso, Superfacial Serum, first love when it comes to a retinol product. It really kickstarted my love for retinol and for that need to have retinol in my skincare routine on a regular basis. In my nighttime skincare routine, I will always owe it to Verso. I love this product. It is so beautiful, especially if you're getting started on retinol. This is it. And then last, there has to be a sunscreen in here because sadly, I hate to say it and admit it, but I really was not committed to my sunscreen. In my entire teens and 20s, sunscreen to me was a product that I pulled out for very specific reasons. I would pull it out because I was gonna be in the sun all day, I was going on vacation, or I was gonna go lay at the pool. Those were the only times that I ever used any form of sunscreen. Up until my early 30s, probably somewhere in my mid 30s, I started to, discover the Korean sunscreens, and those were other game changers for sure. You know, like for me, it was the Missha Essence Sun Milk that really got me to think like, you know what, I think I can do sunscreen in my daily skincare routine and actually enjoy the experience of it. That was like the first one, because it was like this nice fluid kind of texture. It felt good, looked good on my skin. That was like the one that like first clicked for me, but I wasn't like obsessed with my sunscreen yet. Like I wasn't like, yeah, you know what, I can see myself doing this every single day. I was like forcing myself to do it. But that one definitely made the process easier and made it like easier to be like, yeah, okay, I can do this. But then this came into my life, which is no longer available, and it makes me so sad. I actually found this in like a drawer in my beauty closet, just kind of like tucked away. It had like gotten like kind of smashed back there, and we pulled this out and I was like, oh my God, it's the Beet Shield from Crave Beauty. I'm gonna open it for you guys right now. Woo! This isn't that long ago that this became the holy grail sunscreen for not just me, but probably for a lot of us. This is when sunscreen clicked. I think I said this in my review of the brand a couple of years ago. I was like, this sunscreen, even though it wasn't called a sunscreen here in the United States because it's a Korean sunscreen, or it was a Korean sunscreen, the Beet Shield really changed the game, because I want you guys to remember this texture. Oh, it's so good. They just don't make it like this. This texture was a game changer, because this made it not just tolerable to wear a sunscreen, but it made it enjoyable to wear a sunscreen. This really was like the start of that, where we all turned our focus onto Korean sunscreens and we went, oh shoot, sunscreen can become a part of our daily skincare routine, and it can be enjoyable and actually enhance our skin and the way it looks, instead of making it feel crusty or thick or dry, or making our makeup like get slippery, or, you know, giving us a white cast. This was a sunscreen that got it started for us. I know that Crave and Leah are working on, you know, new sunscreens, and I cannot wait to try those when they come out, because I can only imagine the pressure they feel to replicate this. We've now seen the revolution of the sunscreens, and it's only getting started. I mean, like, I think there's probably like 2 or 3 new sunscreens that are going to be launching like every single month for the next like 2 years. Seriously, I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating this at all. Every brand will have beautiful sunscreens to offer. It's like mandatory now for any skincare brand to have beautiful sunscreens, including my brand. Just wait, we kick off our sunscreens this year. So they are coming. And I say sunscreens plural. We know sunscreen is so important. And I really do think that the Beet Shield definitely played a big part in all of us enjoying sunscreen. All right, so those were my skincare firsts, or like the skincare products that just started my love for skincare. And it was really all in my 30s. I am 40, gonna be 41 this year. And it really was my 30s that changed my outlook on skincare, that made me commit to skincare and really fall in love with certain steps in my skincare routine. These were the products, and I'm so happy to talk about them. It actually made me feel really nostalgic talking about them. I could have talked so much more with this video, but if you guys have products like this that got you, you know, just started in skincare, or really just solidified your love for specific types of skincare products, share them in the comments below, because it's fun to just like reminisce about this stuff. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm at Susan Yara, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.